Could we ask delegations to take their seat, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. We continue with our Assembly of Party meeting, and we now move to agenda item 5, which is the management and budget for the 2018. And I draw your attention that the draft management plan for 2018, which is a document that is labeled Assembly of Party 2017 3.1, and the accompanying proposed operational budget, which is document 3.2. The proposed budget for 2018 has been endorsed by the Audit and Finance Committee and the Standing Committee. Both documents have been circulated in advance of today's meeting, and I would like to invite the Director General to introduce the proposed management plan and budget for 2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have all, of course, received the plan and budget in advance and have had an opportunity to look at it. We have talked about the challenges, the context, the opportunities in the Partnership Forum, and it is in that context that I present this management plan as our contribution to how we can address some of the issues. In terms of the overall objectives of this plan, or perhaps I should say the overall approach of the plan, this is a plan to consolidate our work. We have now the strategy. It will be entering into its second year next year. So our idea is to consolidate the programs that are a part of that strategy. The second objective is to complete the second phase of organizational reforms. There are some reforms that we are taking forward from this year into the next, and we certainly would want to complete them, but we will also be launching some issues in next year to take it forward for the following years. And the third and very important aspect, which I mentioned in my opening statement, was also about revitalizing resources. Everything that we are promising to do means nothing if we do not have the funds to support it. We, of course, have presented a balanced budget, as you will see, but we hope that there will be more support, that we can garner more financial support to be able to expand and carry out some important work. Our programs are we're not looking for huge growth in the following year, I should mention that. What we are really looking is to solidify what we have achieved and to improve the quality what we have, but also to make some very strategic, targeted investments in a few issues and areas. Let me start by showing you what our geographic distribution of our work will look like next year. And I think this is very important because of the big shift that we will see. If you look at those two pie charts, Africa is in gold. If you look at the top pie chart, that is about 2016, look at the size of Africa there, and then look at the second pie chart, and you will see that Africa is more than half of our work next year. And we feel very proud of that because we feel that is a real contribution to exploring the opportunities in Africa and helping the governments to address their challenges there. But it is also a measure of stability for the organization, because if you look at 2016, the dark blue there is Asia, and in Asia it was very largely our program in Afghanistan. But now in Africa we will be spread across a number of countries in Africa. That also gives us some operational stability. The blue, Asia still remains a strong part of our work, and the area and Latin America will grow with our big program in Mexico, and we hope that that will also lead to other opportunities in Central America. The challenge for us is that green slice of Middle East and North Africa. There are great opportunities, enormous needs, and we will be talking both to our partners in the region as well as to international development partners to see how we can contribute and expand, where best we can expand our work in the Middle East and North Africa region, and we look to your support to do that. Now, if I may turn to the thematic work, and just draw your attention to our strategic plan. As yesterday, as I said, we have these two big impact goals, one on people's empowerment and the other one on institution building. And below that, we actually have 6 thematic areas through which we will achieve those goals. The first one is about empowering women and other marginalized groups. The second one is about engaging with civil society to be able to enhance the empowerment. The third is about work in the informal justice area. The fourth is institution building. The fifth is contribution to economic development. And the sixth is actually building a constituency of support, championing advocacy on rule of law. Now, if we look at those 6 areas in terms of the distribution of our work, in the next pie chart, you will see that, of course, our program portfolio is determined not only by us, it's usually a process between us and our partners. So looking from that perspective, the largest area of our thematic work next year, as in the past, will remain institution building, justice institution building, which is 58% of our work. However, if you look at the work that we are doing to empower women and to work with civil society to enhance empowerment, working at community levels, that is the dark blue and the orange, and together they form about a quarter of our work. So that is also quite significant. Then we have a green, a bright green, a light blue, that is the economic development work. Now that is going to be actually larger than what it looks on the pie chart. Of course, our figures were put together in August, so that is a few months ago. Since then, of course, we've had very encouraging responses to our economic development work, and we certainly see that going up next year. Thanks to the projects and programs that we mentioned earlier with the least developed countries and also with the European Bank and with other partners like China. So the light blue work will increase next year. Then the light gray work, that is about our informal justice systems. That was hardly there in the past, but we see that now certainly on the map. And we expect that work to grow as well. One of the key issues there will be next year, we will publish some together in consultation and with the contribution of the Standing Committee and our Board of Advisors, we will be producing some policy guidelines about our work on informal justice. This is a very tricky area, it's a controversial area, it's a difficult and challenging area, and so we want to make sure that we understand what it is that we can do and how best to do it. So we look forward to a dialogue with you in that area of work. So if we move forward into the thematic areas of work, very quickly, first, the empowerment of women, partnering civil society, and working with informal justice, as I mentioned. We see great potential for expansion of our work on gender, on women, and you could see it, all of us could see it from the discussion we earlier had, which could have continued much longer, because there is real passion and real interest in addressing this issue. I think when we look at the global stage, we also see very strong interest on women's issues and girls' issue. We will continue with our programs to address sexual and gender-based violence and women's access to justice in Afghanistan, Liberia, Mali, Mongolia, and Somalia. We have community level justice programs in Honduras, Mali, and we will be launching, and we are in fact working with CEDA already in Uganda on a program on community justice there. We are working on HIV and health in East Africa, and I want to draw your attention to a small but very interesting project that we have as a result of a public-private partnership on legal and social accountability for young women and adolescent girls. This is, of course, a very important group to be working with, but the methodology that we are using, combining social accountability and legal accountability, opens up possibilities for us to do this work in other parts of the world on issues relating to women and girls. We have a good program starting on informal justice in Somalia with support from the European Commission. And then there are other new opportunities that we want to explore on women's empowerment in the Middle East, North Africa region. And we have put together a gender program, a proposal by us of what kind of work we can do to advance gender equality. And we will be presenting that to some of our international partners later today. And we will actively work to both assert an interest which countries are interested in that program and which donors and partners are interested to expand that work on gender. If I can then move to the next goal, which is our judicial and legal institution building. This is the 58% or so of our work. So this is a major part of our work. We see geographic diversification here as well. Afghanistan, I mentioned yesterday the transition program we had, and we are in negotiations now with the Afghan government and with the donor to see how we can actually take that forward next year to embed transition. We talked about the difficulties of sustaining change, and this program, taking it forward, will be important. I want to draw your attention to a lessons learned document that we have produced about the capacity building work that we have done in Afghanistan over the past few years. It is a very important and interesting report that we will be putting out on our website and sharing with everyone in the next few days. And it is I think it has some very important lessons about the sustainability of work, not just in Afghanistan, but elsewhere. Mexico, police capacity development, it's a new program because we have not done work in Mexico before. It's also new because we are moving into the area of police capacity development. So it will be an interesting experience. On anti-corruption, of course, we are working in Ukraine, and we see anti-corruption as both on the prevention side with deregulation and also on the remedial side by investing into institutional support, and very important, building the public support for it. Philippines as well, we are doing work on anti-corruption in the Philippines, which is also expanding next year. And then I wanted to mention to you the emerging opportunities with refugees and migrants. We have a program that we are discussing with Turkey for support to Syrian refugees, and with support from the Kuwait Development Fund, Arab Economic Fund. And in Somalia, where the European Commission has funded us, to do work with internally displaced persons and migrants. We are in the final stages of negotiating a memorandum of understanding with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Geneva, and we hope, and also we are seeking observer status at the International Organization of Migration, and this will allow us to, of course, look for more opportunities and contribute to this area. Now, moving to Goal 5, which is about legal support for economic development. Of course, this is, as I mentioned, is an area for expansion, and we have partnership opportunities here with a number of partners, with EBRD, with whom we have signed a framework agreement, with the Kuwait Fund, with whom we are expecting to sign an agreement very soon, and which has been a good partner for us also in the past. And then, of course, the investment support program with LDCs, where we very much appreciate the support that has been expressed by the European Commission. And there is, of course, a great new opportunity with the Memorandum of Understanding that we signed with the Ministry of Commerce of China for capacity development linked to the Belt Road Initiative. We are discussing at this stage possible programs in Pakistan and for Central Asia. So this is, as I said, this is an area where we see expansion. Now, then we come to our Goal 6, which is about building political will. This is about policy advocacy, and we have identified here 4 areas of focus. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, where, of course, in 2019, July 2019, there will be a high-level political forum in New York on Goal 16, and we obviously would like to work with our partners to see how we can contribute to that. Gender equality, we've already mentioned. The independence and integrity of the judiciary is absolutely critical to our work, and there is room for us to promote and support this issue at the UN Human Rights Council. And then engagement with informal justice systems is also an issue where we need to do some policy advocacy to understand what the issues are and how best to address them. We will be working, of course, through our UN liaison offices in New York and Geneva, and in Rome, with the Rome-based agencies to promote issues, for example, access to land in relation to women with IFAD and FAO and so on, and also with institutions based in The Hague, with our branch office there. But we are more and more also working at the national levels in the countries where we have programs to engage with the national authorities, to engage with civil society and other actors. So our advocacy programs will be both national and global. Let me now move on. So you see that is mainly the work that we are planning to do in terms of our programs. But of course, a very important part of that is the organizational focus and what we do inside to support the work that we are planning to do outside. And here, under our strategic plan, we have a number of areas that we had identified, and we have grouped those areas into major initiatives that we will be taking. And there are 8 major initiatives, and I will run you through very quickly, highlighting the priorities under each of those initiatives. The initiative number 1 and initiative number 2 is about program quality, research, and learning. And they're very interlinked, which is why we are presenting it together here. One of our key priorities is to develop and roll out a results monitoring framework so that we can monitor and measure what we are doing. We have already started work on it this year, and we hope to complete it next year and to actually roll it out. So when I say we will do X or Y for women or in economic development, we can actually have clear targets and indicators by which we will be measuring our programs to show the results. We have developed a number of tools to improve the design of our programs, to monitor our programs, to manage them, and we will be putting that in a program manual and rolling it out with training for our colleagues, both in headquarters and in the field. And then finally, we will be investing. We have done some work this year, and we will continue to invest on program evaluation and lessons learned brief, both for our internal learning, but our external learning. This year, we produced 2 such lessons learned brief, one on electoral dispute resolution, in looking at the whole issue of the role of judges, the courts in elections. And a second one is just coming out on capacity development. And the next one, early next year, will be on e-justice, the use of electronic and technology to promote capacity development and justice, focused on our work in Central Asia. But we will continue to do this learning exercise. If I now move to transparency and accountability, this is a very critical issue. We know how important it is. When I said earlier about raising funds, resource mobilization, success of our resource mobilization is directly linked to our ability to account for and openly and be very transparent about where the resources are going and what results we are achieving. One very important achievement this year has been the development for 2018. You have a full output-based budget, and we will be reporting against those outputs through the year. So that is, I think, an important achievement in terms of our transparency. We will also be improving our donor reporting in line with that. So this will also help us to go back to our donors and explain what is happening, not just in relation to their own projects, but also globally through the organization. We have created an internal audit and compliance position, and we are in the process of hiring a candidate for that. We hope that will happen very shortly. We will have someone, and we will roll out a program for internal audits so that we can be ahead of the curve, so to speak, and we can deal with issues and problems internally. We're present in about 20 different locations, and therefore we have to make sure that we have all the same standards and that we are actually at the same level of control in those 20 locations. Moving now to resource mobilization and communications, there is of course a direct link between the two, since we need to get across what we are doing in order to be able to generate interest from our donors. One of our major objectives this coming year would be to broaden the donor base, to target sovereign donors, of course, and we have a few in the pipeline, but also multilaterals. We are very pleased with, as I mentioned, with the growing, with the cooperation that we now have with the EBRD, that we will very soon be also signing with the Kuwait Fund, but we also are looking at the European Commission and very pleased with the interest that we have received from there. And we're also looking at private sector, and by that I mean foundations, some of them linked to corporations and some of them philanthropic foundations. We are strengthening our donor engagement, and this afternoon, as soon as this assembly ends, we will be meeting with some of our partners. We're calling it a consultation on prospective partnerships. And of course, we will keep following that bilaterally and through other means through coming year. We have developed programs. I mentioned to you the gender program. The other 2 programs we've developed is economic development and peace building, and we will be sharing that with donors to probe their interest in these 3 areas and then see how it happens. One other important work that we're doing internally is looking at how we budget our projects to make sure that expenses, what we need, that we have the resources that we need to be able to do our work properly. And there, of course, we will be discussing internally, but also with our partners, and certainly look to the support of the Audit and Finance Committee. We are also setting up policies and processes for in-kind contribution. We talked about pro bono services for our investment support program. We believe that there is much more, I think, in-kind support that we could get, and we will be setting up policies and processes. One big communications agenda that we have next year is the 30th anniversary of this organization. On the 5th of February, 1988, the establishment agreement of IDLO was signed. So IDLO was born on that date, and we would like to mark it next year with various events, but also various goals and objectives that we have to enhance support for the organization and to recognize those who have contributed to this organization over the past 30 years. So it is both looking back to say thank you and looking ahead to say, please, we would like you to be our partners and to stay as our partners. Now, I come now to the governance and membership. You are just about to support governance reform. Yesterday, in fact, you adopted the resolution on governance reform, and of course, which will strengthen the role of the Standing Committee and has clarified the role of the Board of Advisors. You heard the chair of the Board of Advisors earlier making his report, and we are, of course, will be working to support them as well as the Audit and Finance Committee. We want to continue our membership drive. We are very pleased that we have 3 new members this year, or we will have 3. We have 2, and we will have a 3rd one very soon, but we want to continue it, and we would like to look for regional balance. We are a regionally balanced organization, and we want to make sure that stays so. And we want to find ways of better engaging with member parties. I know we can do much, much better than we have done here. We have done some, but we need to do better, and we will be consulting with you to find out what ways you think is most useful for that purpose. Just the last one now is about people and processes, very important. Our people are, of course, our most valuable asset, as I mentioned earlier. If you see all good things happening in the organization, the credit goes to my colleagues. If you see something is wrong, then please complain to me. It's about my leadership. That's the way I see things working. One of our big achievements has been the new employment model and employee rules that was adopted and endorsed by the Standing Committee this year. We will be rolling out next year. It has financial implications, and therefore we will roll it out as money becomes available. So we are behaving in a financially prudent way, but at the same time prioritizing it because it is so important. We will have plans next year to improve the development capacity of our own staff, and also to continue our shift towards the field. That is where the work is done. That is where our results need to be the best, and that is where we need to put the best of IDLO out there. So we will continue on field orientation. There are a number of ICT and other systems upgrades that are taking place, the Enterprise Resource Platform, and this is very important because it also enhances accountability. It makes it possible for us to delegate more authority to the field. Some work on it has started this year. I'm afraid it was delayed. The financial constraints that I mentioned earlier did delay that work, but that work has begun, and we hope to take it forward next year. The final point I want to make is an important one, and this is a plea to all member parties and others here. As we roll out our work in program countries, as we do more and more in these countries, we do need to make sure that our legal status is well protected. That allows us to be effective in the field, and we are negotiating host country agreements with a number of our program countries. We are, in some cases, we do face difficulties and blockages because these are legal issues, difficult legal issues, and we would encourage all of you to support us in this process. And I also want to acknowledge the revised host country agreement, which I signed earlier this year with Italy, which puts us at par with the other Rome-based agencies, and I'm very, very grateful to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for completing that agreement with us. But we hope that next year we will also be able to complete host country agreements with a number of our partners. That brings me to the end of the presentation and on to the budget. Next to me is Harun Atalla, our Director for Finance and Support Services, who's actually, he and his people have worked very hard to put this budget together. All the senior managers have contributed to it. It is a balanced budget, and to figure out a balanced budget is not easy for an organization that is dependent on voluntary contributions, and especially when we are making the budget in August for what might happen next year. Of course, things change. So let me show you the slide and the figures as they look at it, and of course, I will invite, if there are any questions, then Haroon will be happy to answer that. I should mention, you will see, well, let me possibly pass it on to Haroon and let Haroon run you through very quickly through what these figures mean. But please keep in mind that as far as revenue is concerned, we prepared this in August in order to be able to give it to the AFC in September and to the Standing Committee in October. So some of those figures are, I would say, looking better than they were when we prepared them so far in advance. The approach we took was a cautious one. We think it's better to promise less and deliver more, so we took a cautious approach to our budget, but I think the figures will improve. So Haroon, it's please.
This one. Thank you, Madam Director General. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As the Director General mentioned, the budget for 2018 is a balanced budget. It looks very similar to the budget of 2017. When you look at it, the unrestricted revenue expectations are that they would remain similar to 2017 income patterns. On the program side of things, while you may see a slight dip in the restricted program income, you will see there is an increase in the earmarked income. Earmarked roughly means that donors who are giving us money that is loosely targeting certain areas, and that's a contribution we're expecting from the government of the Netherlands. On the expenses side of things, again, it would look pretty steady. Director General referred to the costs of implementing the new employment model. So if you like, there are some reductions that are then also covered by an increase, slight increase due to the new employment model. On the function-specific costs, these are the budgets allocated to the various departments. Some of you may remember there was a sharp cutback on this last year to try and produce a balanced budget. So there is a slight increase this year just to allow for some of the activities we need to carry out. The office costs budget has seen a reduction, and that's just basically by cutting back on the costs of running our offices. Direct program activities are a reflection of the income levels. It reflects a 12 to 13% cost recovery on the program income. The whole of the budget has been prepared on an output basis, and that's a great achievement for us this year. You've seen the percentages presented by the Director General. The impact of all of this on the reserves of the organization are that we will be above the threshold of required reserves to be maintained by the organization, so we will be about 1 million above what is expected. As the Director General mentioned as well, the income projections, if you like, were prepared back in August, and we expect that we will actually exceed the restricted program revenue and maybe also the unrestricted, and this would obviously mean we would have more projects to implement in the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director General and Mr. Haroon, for your detailed presentation. I would like to ask Member Party if there are any comments on the management plan and budget before we move on to the resolution number 2, 2017, that covers both the plan and the budget and involves the adoption of a resolution recommended by the Standing Committee. We have a list. We start with Pakistan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like the Director like to thank the Director General for a very comprehensive presentation. Mr. President, we note that the political and security environment remains unstable in many of IDLO's countries of operation. This presents challenges as well as opportunities. These challenges require IDLO to increase its operational capacity, strengthen its planning and impact assessment, and invest in its human resources in the coming year. This also implies expansion of financial and political support, including funding. We note that if this year was regarded as the year of stabilization of the organization, we feel that the next year would be the year to focus on enhancing quality and impact of IDLO programs and prioritize resource mobilization. The purposes of the management plan are consolidating the transition to the Strategy 2020. We firmly believe that the management plan will implement policies and projects contained in IDLO's Strategy 2020. We believe that revitalizing resource mobilization, delivering programs for policy advocacy to empower groups, strengthening institutions to improve laws and quality of justice with a special focus on criminal justice, fighting corruption, and economic development are essential and beneficial to all. In this context, we endorse the need to improve transparency and accountability as emphasized by the Director General in her presentation. We note that IDLO is cognizant of a need to explore new openings. These include IDLO expanding its program portfolio from Asia to Africa and all other regions of the world. This is key to achieve its this is essential as we need to reach out to more states to assist the work of IDLO. We also support IDLO's work on gender empowerment, assisting poor and marginalized groups to fight against discrimination, and eradicating sexual and gender-based violence. Moreover, we support the emphasis on employee development through the implementation of recently adopted new employee rules and strengthening of IDLO's legal status in countries of operation through conclusion of host country agreements. Furthermore, it is satisfying to note that the unrestricted revenues are within the proposed budget for the 2018. With these comments, we approve the proposed management plan for 2018 and IDLO's budget for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan, and the floor now is to Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Director General for the comprehensive and, as usual, very clear presentation. Italy approves and supports both the management plan and the budget for 2018. It has all the characteristics to provide an excellent ground for continuity in IDLO's activities for 2018, hopefully expanding the already brilliant results achieved in 2017. There is a lot of potential in the focus areas that the Director General has illustrated. In particular, we see special value added in IDLO's experience and competencies when it comes to informal justice systems. We encourage IDLO to concentrate in this field of activity and to consider, as we have already said on some occasions in standing committee meetings, this area of activity could deserve some specific policy guidelines with invaluable advice and expertise of the Board of Advisors. The focus on economic development is especially dear to us, and we welcome that this area of activity will be given special attention in the programs for strengthening the institutions of partner countries. Resource mobilization strategy is also key for the future of IDLO. We stand ready to collaborate with IDLO in its implementation. We appreciate the balanced, prudent approach of the budget, but at the same time, we strongly call the attention of all the members of IDLO on the importance to contribute to this organization, also financially, and in particular with unrestricted funding, because broadening the donor base, as it has been rightfully said, is key to ensure stable and sustainable growth of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative of Italy, and the floor is now to Piero.
Gracias, señor presidente. Y agradecemos también a la directora general por su presentación. Ante el contexto actual y las tendencias globales emergentes, el plan de gestión para 2018 que se nos presenta hoy, consideramos que generará un marco que permita a la organización aumentar su capacidad operativa, reforzar su planificación y evaluar el impacto de los programas con el fin de la consecución exitosa de la Agenda 2030. El plan de gestión se centra en objetivos y metas sustantivos que se encuentran establecidos en el plan estratégico. Los objetivos de impacto indican los resultados de la IDLO e intentarán obtener por medio de los 6 objetivos de acción, los mismos que destacamos y consideramos pertinentes. Por otro lado, la organización ha gestado 8 iniciativas para facilitar la gestión y la rendición de cuentas. A este respecto, expresamos nuestro respaldo a las mismas y consideramos que para efectos de aumentar la transparencia y la rendición de cuentas, es oportuno mejorar la plataforma virtual que maneja la organización, de manera tal que los Estados miembros puedan trabajar en una página web amigable y de fácil acceso, en la que se consignen todos los informes sobre los programas de IDLO y la situación financiera de la misma. En lo que respecta a los programas de la organización, reiteramos nuestra felicitación por la ampliación de la distribución geográfica del trabajo programático de la IDLO. Después de mucho tiempo, la mayoría de programas estarán en África y de igual manera vemos con agrado que la cartera de América Latina haya aumentado del 5% en 2016 al 14% para 2018, principalmente por los programas en Honduras y ahora con el próximo inicio del programa en México. Destacamos que la organización siga desarrollando una labor en el terreno donde tiene una ventaja comparativa y de igual manera hacemos un llamado a la organización a continuar su trabajo con países miembros. Con estos comentarios aprobamos el plan de gestión y el presupuesto operativo para el 2018. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Representative of Peru. And the floor now is to the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the IDLO for its work in the Philippines, particularly the training programs of our prosecutors in the Office of the Ombudsman and in the Department of Justice in partnership with the State Department of the United States. We welcome the trend of diversifying IDLOs present in Southeast Asia. As member of the ASEAN, we support IDLO's initiative and operation in Southeast Asia and will continue to support its effort to expand its membership there. We welcome the continued alignment of IDLO's goals towards the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. The Philippines sees the rule of law as an essential component for inclusive growth and a crucial element in enhancing the social fabric. We support IDLO's effort to expand its financial and political support, as well as strategic partnership. We thank the generosity of donor countries and international organizations. We commend the work of the Director General for the wise management of IDLO's resources in 2017 that enabled it to operate within its budget. We are confident that such wise financial administration will continue next year. We support IDLO for its action plans in 2016 and special focus on women empowerment. With this, the Philippines gives support to the Management Plan 2018 and budget for 2018 and ready to work with IDLO to accomplish its goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative of the Philippines. We just have an announcement that we had a little issue with the translation of the text in Spanish to English, and the Secretariat will provide an English text typed to representatives. And now we move to the second speaker on the list, Jordan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to thank the Director General for her comprehensive and clear presentation. We believe the goals embedded in 2018 Management Plan are of paramount importance. They go hand in hand with the organization's objectives set out in Strategy 2020. We note with satisfaction the focus on program quality enhancement, as well as transparency and accountability improvement. Such measures, we believe, are very important to enhance the efficiency, the credibility, and overall performance of IDLO. Concerning the geographic distribution of IDLO's programmatic work in 2018, we are pleased to note that the proportion of the middle-income countries in IDLO's programs is going to increase. However, we encourage IDLO to place more focus on the Middle East region in the future, where conflicts and economic crisis have imposed unprecedented challenges and have severely undermined the socio-economic development and resilience of some societies. One impact area that clearly needs further attention is championing the rule of law and promotion of SDG 16. This is a very important area in which an investment can make a difference in IDLO's contribution to SDGs. We encourage the Secretariat to seek additional resources to sustain and expand its activities in this field. Satisfied to see IDLO's new gender strategy bearing fruits with 2 women-dedicated projects in the Middle East and North Africa on supporting women judges and women entrepreneurs' access to justice. We welcome IDLO's growing interest and engagement in migrant and refugee support. The refugee crisis has had a severe negative impact on several member countries, including my country, Jordan, where decades of hard-earned developmental gains were undermined, impeding its efforts to achieve the SDGs. We believe that IDLO has a comparative advantage and can be of great added value and support in this field, mainly in economic development dimensions. The results monitoring framework is an important step forward towards a better program quality. Evaluations and lessons learned are essential for a dynamic organization that is in constant evolution and transformation like IDLO. Of equal importance is the envisaged improved reporting process and the strengthened management oversight, which should have a great impact on enhancing the transparency of the organization. We hope that as the Secretariat move into implementing the resource mobilization plan, the donors pool would expand and the scale of unrestricted funds would increase in 2018. On the proposed budget, we noticed that reference was made to IDLO's decision to close its Amman office in April 2017. Reference in particular was made to challenges and delays in securing a host country agreement from Jordan. On this very particular point, we would like to just make a comment that we were informed by our competent authorities in Jordan that the delay in securing this host country agreement was due to some sort of communication problem with the former head of Amman office. This should not be interpreted in any way as a lack of interest on the Jordanian side. We reiterate our commitment to the objectives, to the goals of IDLO, to support IDLO, and our commitment also to be the host country for the office in Amman. And I would like to also announce that we have this morning just provided IDLO Secretariat with the final draft host country agreement in Arabic. So we look forward to finalizing all the necessary arrangements and all the measures in order to arrive to a final text as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan. Floor is now for USA, please.
Thank you, Chair. We commend IDLO for a break-even budget that is output-based. We appreciate the comments of countries thanking the United States for our financial support to IDLO programs. And we encourage IDLO's carrying on of critical programs in difficult and challenging environments while sticking to a restricted zero nominal growth budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If does anyone have any further questions or comments on both management plan and budget? The Standing Committee has discussed the proposed management plan and budget at its October 12th meeting and its continuous meeting of November 8th. The resolution endorsed by the Standing Committee recommends the approval of the plan and budget, and there should be presented on the screen momentarily the text of resolutions, and they are open for any comments or suggested alternative text. If it's not, we can circulate it. Yes. Okay. That is. Yes. It is. It's the same text as circulated in the packet that is forwarded 3 weeks before the Standing Committee. It is the text is labeled as Resolution number 2, 2017. If there is no comments or objection on the text, or any, may I take it that the Assembly wish to adopt the resolution by consensus? Okay. It is so decided. Then we move to agenda item 6, which is a report of the governing bodies. Allow me to continue with the report of the Standing Committee, which is also has been circulated under Assembly of Party 2017 5.1 document. As President and thus Chair of the Standing Committee, allow me to share some highlights of the report. The Standing Committee held 3 meetings this year. The member of the Audit and Finance Committee were invited to attend all the Standing Committee meetings as observers. During the meetings, we had interaction with the Director General on the direction, administration, and management of the organization with a focus on monitoring the implementation of the IDLO Strategic Plan 2017 and 2020, adopted last year, and development of the governance reform process. The implementation of 2017 budget was closely followed by the Standing Committee through reports submitted by the Director General, as well as reports and minutes of the Audit and Finance Committee meeting. Additionally, members from the Audit and Finance Committee, including its chair, participated in all the Standing Committee meetings. In particular, the Standing Committee engaged actively in the process of reforming IDLO governance framework, including through the work of an open-ended working group established for this purpose. The working group met 5 times during 2017 with the support from the Secretariat and IDLO's General Council, and endorsed the final set of recommendations of amendments to the governance document, which were adopted by the Assembly yesterday. Moreover, further to the authority delegated to it by the Assembly of Party to approve the new IDLO Employees Rule, Resolution number 2 of 2013, the Standing Committee followed this process closely, including participation in a dedicated information briefing by IDLO management in March 2017. Following a full discussion at the July 25th Standing Committee meeting and the provision of additional information from IDLO in response to some queries raised by the United States, the new employees rule were approved by the Standing Committee in July 2017 with the understanding that they would be put into force by the Director General in a phased manner consistent with IDLO budget. Key discussion and endorsement of the Standing Committee include: 1. Approval of the financial statement and external audit report 2016, appointment of a new external audit for IDLO and the governance reform process, and the draft 2018 management plan and the proposed operating budget. New IDLO employees rule. In summary, the year of 2017 marked a year of transition for IDLO, following conclusion of its previous strategic plan for 2013 till 2016, and the first year of implementation of the new strategy 2020. Despite the financial challenges created by the unexpected shortfall in unrestricted funding in 2016, IDLO was successful in balancing its budget, keeping program delivery on target during 2017, diversifying its programs and implementing, as far as available resources permitted, a number of major organizational reform, including the adoption of a new employment model and a new employees role. The Standing Committee successfully completed the governance reform process, reviewing the recommending changes to the roles, responsibility, and functions of the governing bodies that will enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of the organization. As IDLO continue to implement its new strategic plan over the next 3 years, the Standing Committee will closely follow the process on behalf of the Assembly and continue to lend its support to the organization effort to develop and enhance programs and to actively pursue membership growth. I would encourage that any question be held till the second report of the governing body, which is the Audit and Finance report, to which I invite the chair of the Audit and Finance Committee to give us some briefing on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the report of the Audit and Finance Committee, which is before this Assembly, I would like briefly to underline the continuing constructive dialogue with the Secretariat of the IDLO and with the effective interaction with the Standing Committee, thanks also to the preparation of the calendar of meeting this year, which allowed an effective work throughout the year. I would like to underline the appointment of a new team of external auditors in keeping with the rotation principle, which is becoming generalized internationally. The prudent approach followed by the Secretary in preparation of the budget, which was already underlined, and the question of the resources. It emerged that while the unearmarked resources, the earmarked resources and the restricted were relatively in a good position, the unearmarked resource availability of unearmarked resources was strictly limited throughout the year, and the AFCs followed closely the progress in receiving contribution, which is important for balancing the expenditure of the organization. So, however, this limited availability of unrestricted resources has limited IDLO capacity to program its work in future, and it's important that the timing of unearmarked contribution be followed closely by the member countries in order to allow the organization to progress effectively with its work. I'd like to thank the President of the Assembly of Parties and the Standing Committee and the IDLO Secretariat for their cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, the Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, for the services throughout the past year in support of the Standing Committee and the rest of the organization. And the floor is open for any questions in both reports or comments. Yes. United States, please.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank Standing Committee President Nawaf al-Muhammad, and the Co-Vice President, Ambassador Sacco, for their strong and effective leadership. We'd also like to thank Pakistan and the Board of Advisors President and Vice President for their contributions as Standing Committee members, as well as the Secretariat for its support. Colleagues, this was a pivotal year, not the least of which because of the governance reforms that we approved yesterday. Next year's Standing Committee will include 2 additional seats for member states. We believe this expansion will strengthen member state visibility of and participation in the organization's programs and internal operations. We believe the Standing Committee is a key part of good governance. It provides an essential channel of communication between IDLO members and the IDLO Secretariat and fosters a responsible, accountable relationship between donors, members, and staff. We appreciate the United States being considered for appointment as President of the Standing Committee and look forward to that opportunity to continue serving. With respect to the report of the Audit and Finance Committees, again, thanks to Ambassador Sacco, the Secretariat, the Chair, and the rest of the members of the Audit and Finance Committee for what we thought was a very productive year. Thanks to your efforts, the organization now has an output-based, balanced budget, a plan to phase in CIP targets based on resources, and a new financial system that will be fully rolled out in 2018. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and we look forward to working with you next year to continue the committee's good work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If there is no further comment, we move to agenda item 7, which is the election, the last agenda item in today's meeting. By way of summary, we have an election today for election of the President and the Vice Presidents of IDLO Assembly of Parties for a 3-year term, and election of 3 ad hoc members of the Standing Committee for a 2-year term. 2 of the vacancies were created by the adoption of yesterday by the Assembly of Parties of a proposed amendment to the Establishment Agreement of IDLO and other governance documents, which include provision adding 2 new ad hoc members' position to the Standing Committee. And lastly, election of 1 member of the Audit and Finance Committee for a 2-year term. 2 background documents on election was already circulated separately, which are documents AP for 2017 6.1. The results of this election will be formalized as resolutions. The Assembly of Parties needs to elect the President and the Vice President of the Assembly of Parties to fill the vacancies caused by the conclusion of the term of the State of Kuwait and the United States of America, the current President, Kuwait, and Vice President, USA, which are not eligible to stand for re-election to their current position at 2017 Assembly of Parties, according to Article 6.1(d)(a) of the Agreement of the Establishment of the International Development Law Organization, but may seek election or reappointment for another vacant position. The IDLO Secretariat has already solicited expression of interest for this position, and the United States of America has officially submitted its expression of interest in running for election as President, and Mozambique has officially submitted a note verbal expressing interest in running for election of Vice Presidents. Is there any other candidates for these 2 vacant positions? May I take it that members wish to approve the election of the United States of America for the position of Presidents by consensus? Thank you. With that, I would like to congratulate the United States of America on their election as Presidents of the Assembly of Parties. Also, may I take it that members wish to approve the election of Mozambique as Vice Presidents of the International Development Law Organization for a 3-year term. Thank you. I would like to congratulate both the United States of America as presidents and Mozambique as vice presidents of the Assembly of Parties. And the floor is now open to the president and vice president-elect to say something on this.
Chair, Mr. President, thank you, colleagues, for the confidence that you've reposed in my country. As you know, we take IDLO very seriously, both from a core funding perspective, but from a programmatic perspective as well. And we look forward to working closely with the new Vice President, the new Standing Committee members, colleagues in the Secretariat in the important year ahead. Thank you, Chair.
Big, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we are deeply honored by the vote of confidence shown on electing Mozambique as a Vice President. I would like to, first of all, to congratulate the U.S. for the election as a president, the new president. Mozambique will work closely with the president to support his work, his responsibilities, and also the secretariats. But I would like also to take opportunity to congratulate and to thank strongly the work done, the great work done by the president, the president for the 7 years that they've been working for IDLO. And also thank you, Chair, for everybody that have been encouraged me and Mozambique to accept this post. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mozambique. The resolutions to appoint the United States of America and Mozambique as president and vice presidents of the Assembly of Parties for a 3-year term has been passed, and election of 3 ad hoc members of the Standing Committee, since Kuwait officially submitted expressed interest in running for election for this position. I will let this election run by Italy as vice president.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm humbled by the duty to replace you for a short while, but since, as we know, there is one vacancy on the Standing Committee arising from the Netherlands ending their term. Yesterday, the governance reform, as we all know, was approved, and 2 additional seats on the Standing Committee are open for election. The Secretariat, solicited expressions of interest for this position, and the following 4 have been received: Kuwait, Peru, Sudan, and Ecuador. Just to check if there are any other candidates. This is not the case. So we have 4 candidates for 3 seats. And I would like to now give the candidates briefly, since we are really behind schedule, the floor to make any statements they may wish to make. Anybody asks for the floor? So please, Ecuador, please, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Y quisiera, en primer lugar, felicitar al nuevo presidente del delegado de Estados Unidos, a la nueva vicepresidenta de la delegación de Mozambique, y señalar, presidente y señores miembros, que Ecuador es miembro de la IDLO desde sus inicios. Son muchos años que Ecuador ha sido miembro de la IDLO. Y en todos estos años jamás Ecuador ha accedido a ningún comité. Es la primera vez que Ecuador está postulándose a un comité de la IDLO. Por otro lado, quisiera señalar que Ecuador está trabajando muy cercanamente en temas con la IDLO, en temas de carácter multilateral, es decir, en beneficio de la organización, de esta organización que para nosotros es muy importante en ámbitos que son sumamente relevantes, como por ejemplo el tema de derechos humanos. Estamos trabajando, la delegación de Ecuador en Ginebra ha presentado una propuesta al Consejo y está trabajando en esto, es sobre la responsabilidad de las multinacionales y los derechos humanos. El apoyo que da IDLO ha sido muy interesante y entonces este trabajo creemos que a través de una relación más cercana en el Consejo, en el Comité Permanente va a ser muy interesante, muy importante, y es por ello que por primera vez Ecuador presenta su candidatura a un órgano, a un comité de esta organización. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Ecuador, y ahora Perú y luego Sudán.
Gracias, vicepresidente. En primer lugar, queremos unirnos al saludo expresado por Ecuador y reiteramos también nosotros nuestra felicitación a Estados Unidos y a Mozambique por la elección. Señores delegados, dirijo estas palabras para felicitar el entusiasmo y las muestras de apoyo a la organización, particularmente por el aumento de la membresía, la misma que ha servido como un incentivo para iniciar un proceso de reforma que, entre otros, brinde una mayor participación a los Estados miembros en los órganos rectores de IDLO. El Perú ha sido muy activo en el proceso de reforma y destacamos en las discusiones la importancia de una distribución geográfica en el Comité Permanente, aspecto que obtuvo un amplio consenso y que tuvo resultado su inclusión en los documentos de gobierno que aprobamos ayer. Teniendo en cuenta el incremento de los programas en la región de América Latina y considerando la falta de representación en pasados periodos, solicitamos su apoyo, señores delegados, para que el Perú integre el Comité Permanente con el mismo entusiasmo y proactividad demostrada durante el proceso de reforma de gobernanza, considerando que nuestra región puede brindar un espacio provechoso para seguir trabajando conjuntamente con la organización. Gracias, señor vicepresidente.
Gracias, Peru. The floor is to Sudan now.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. I add my voice to those who welcome or congratulate USA and Mozambique for the election. We have been a member of IDLO since last century, and we didn't see IDLO in Sudan, and we didn't see Sudan in IDLO. So now Sudan is back to the international community, and we want more engagement, and that's why we are so interested in serving in this standing committee. And the other point, which is mentioned by others, that we adopted yesterday, the representative, geographical representation, we believe is very important, and still, as you can see, that no one from that region, and thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. Now Kuwait, please. Kuwait, you have the floor.
The state of Kuwait, as represented by the Kuwait Fund for Economic Development, has been a very long partner with IDLO since almost its creation. We have a unique position of being both a donor and a recipient country at the same time. We have several projects currently and with IDLO that we are financing both for the benefits of women and children segment of the Syrian refugees, that is in its final stages of being concluded, and we also have another program of contribution to the unrestricted part of the IDLO's budget, as well as financing capacity building projects in Africa. And thus we have this wish to continue this relationship with IDLO governing body. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuwait. It's really a pleasure to see such an interest, even though being on the standing committee is very, very hard, implies very hard working, but it's positive, it's a clear demonstration of interest, and now I think that some work has to be done by the Secretariat to hand out ballots, and then we will proceed to counting them. Thank you. Just some instructions for the vote by the Secretariat, please. Legal Counsel, please.
Thank you, member parties. In terms of the ballots that are being handed out, as you know, there are 3 vacant positions on the standing committee, and we have 4 candidates. So on the ballot, you will find 3 blank lines. Please list 3 of the 4 candidates that you wish to vote for, and then shortly a colleague from the Secretariat will be circulating with a ballot box to collect the ballots. We will then count them and then come back and announce the results. Thank you.
ballots are coming. Has anybody voted, or anyone should still vote? No? Okay, thank you. Of course, the session is not suspended. We proceed with the counting. Thank you. So we resume with the results of the ballot. I will read out in alphabetical order the 3 countries which have received more votes. It's Ecuador, Kuwait, and Peru. At this stage, we proceed with the election of the new member on the Audit and Finance Committee, and I'm more than pleased to turn back the chair to our actual chair. Thank you.
We congratulate Ecuador and Peru for the selection of the membership in the ad hoc members of the Standing Committee, and yes, and I give the floor to the candidates if they wish to say a few words. Start with Peru, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Solamente queremos expresar nuestro agradecimiento a todos los estados que apoyaron y también felicitar a Sudán por su candidatura, que esperemos siga ese entusiasmo de continuar en el comité permanente en otro próximo periodo. Gracias.
Thank you, Peru, and the floor is now to Ecuador.
Gracias, presidente, y deseo agradecer a todos aquellos países que apoyaron esta candidatura ecuatoriana, que realmente está orientada a apoyar los trabajos de la IDLO. Por eso quisiera agradecer, felicitar también a Sudán, que seguramente en la próxima elección será elegido y además que cuenta con el apoyo ecuatoriano. Y a usted, señor presidente, por su doble papel como presidente al momento y como nuevo miembro también del comité. Muchas gracias.
We thank Sudan for their strong interest and engagement in the participation in IDLO, and we give them the floor if they want to say anything on this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I congratulate Ecuador, Kuwait, Peru on their election, and you have our full support.
Now, before issuing the resolution into this, we move to the last bit of election for today's meeting, which is the election of one member of the Audit and Finance Committee. Within the Audit and Finance Committee, there is one seat up for election for a 2-year term due to the vacancy arising from the end of the term of the Office of Egypt. Egypt has expressed its interest in running for the seat on the Audit and Finance Committee. If there is any other candidates, he may come forward at this stage. not, we declare this an uncontested election, and we approve by consensus the membership of Egypt as a member of the Audit and Finance Committee. With this, I would like to congratulate all countries for both positions at either ad hoc members of the Standing Committee or member of the Audit and Finance Committee, and I wish that we can have the text of the resolution presented on the screen. This is the Audit and Finance Committee membership. Yes. Okay. Recognizing Egypt as a member of the Audit and Finance Committee and congratulating them for this position, I would give them the floor to say words that they wish.
Thank you, Mr. President. We congratulate Ecuador, Peru, and Kuwait for their appointment for the Standing Committee, and we reiterate our commitment to work with all of you to achieve the objectives of IDLO. Thank you.
The resolution to appoint Egypt as an ad hoc member of the Audit and Finance Committee for a 2-year term has been passed. We move now to the second resolutions for the election of Ecuador and Peru and Kuwait as members of the Standing Committee for a 2-year term. The resolution to appoint Ecuador and Peru and Kuwait as an ad hoc members of the Standing Committee for a 2-year term has been passed. Yes, the management plan and budget, just a housekeeping exercise. We need to see also the text for the resolution approving the management plan and budget on the screen. I know the text on the screen is sometimes difficult to read, but the drafts has already been circulated earlier along with the packet for the documents for the preparation of this or today's meeting. If there is no comments on the draft resolution, may I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the resolution passing the management plan and budget by consensus. It is so decided. And the last item is any other business. We are now near the end of today's proceedings. Does any member party wish to raise any other business or issue? Yes. Yes. Management, please.
Mr. President, allow me to raise a very important issue under any other business, and that is to thank you as a President of IDLO for the last 3 years and to acknowledge your contribution in a small way. We have, on behalf of the Secretariat and the Standing Committee, prepared a certificate of appreciation for you, which I hope you will keep it in a prominent place so that your contribution is fully recognized. Thank you. And a small gift on behalf of IDLO to you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for this appreciation. As most of you know, IDLO is very close to my heart personally. Regardless of our institutional memory, which dates back with IDLO since the creation in 1988. We have been supportive of the cause and the purpose when it started as a small office of NGO targeting lawyers and junior legal professions from developing countries for a capacity building exercise here in Rome, in their first headquarters. And throughout the years, Kuwait Fund and the state of Kuwait has been very supportive for IDLO. Personally, I am an alumnus of IDLO training programs on the early 80s, but I will not say which year. And I've been through the year from, a training young lawyer in the 80s to become on the board of advisors and throughout the career. We have, together with IDLO, went through a lot of good and tough times, but I'm very glad to see IDLO emerging as an international organization with an expanding number of countries joining its membership, and we hope that it will continue in this positive path. If there is no other business and we must attend to, we can now move to the meeting closure. I would like to thank all member parties for their active participants at today's assembly and for their continued commitment to IDLO programmatic success and financial stability. I also thank the Director General and IDLO management and IDLO staff, including on the field, for all their hard work and dedication to IDLO and to the promotion of rule of law. I was the privilege to visit some of the field offices in Afghanistan and in Africa, and saw firsthand the great job that they do. And also would like to congratulate the new members of IDLO's governing bodies for their election, the United States for the position of the presidency, and Mozambique for the position of the vice presidents, and the ad hoc members of Ecuador, Peru, and now I declare the 2017 Assembly of Party closed. And thank you all.